Okay, yeah. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the DSA Carnival 2K21. I am Harshil Kaneria from Government Engineering College, Rajkot, and I am a host of today's session. Our today's speaker is Mr. Nandish Gupta. He is a CSE undergraduate at Maharaja Agniversal Institute of Technology, mentor at Coursera Academy, SD intern at IHS Market, and 5-star at Coursera and expert at a Codeforce. Our today's topic is beat manipulation. So, without wasting too much time, I hand over to Nandish sir. Sir, over to you.
Okay, thank you for welcoming me. Am I audible? If anyone can just drop in a quick yes or no in the chat. Am I audible? Uh, and thank you for welcoming me. I am Nandish Gupta. Uh, just want to make sure here that I'm audible before we begin. Uh, if anyone can intimate me that are we audible at the moment? Okay, I'm audible. So I guess there's a little bit lag in when I see the comments versus when you actually send them. So there might be a little bit of lag in that sense, but not to worry about that. So okay, hello guys, I am Nandish, as Harshal just mentioned here. I am 5-star at CodeChef and expert at Codeforces right now. I have been working as mentor at CodeChef, and right now I am doing an SD software engineering internship at IHS Market. So today we will be learning about bit manipulation. So let me share the screen just a second. Yeah. So let's go over the agenda today. So today we will be learning about bit manipulation. First of all, we will see how do you represent numbers in the binary number system? What are the logical operations and the bitwise operations? What are the C++ Java symbols for the same? What is shift operator? The precedence, time and space complexities, some quick manipulations, some implementations, and that's all. That's all for today. So let's quickly start with the first agenda, which is binary number system. So uh, one more thing I want to say, I will keep on switching to this screen to see your comments in between fixed intervals, so that I can answer doubts if there are any in the bit during the session. Okay, so first of all, we'll be learning about binary number system. So binary number system. We all know about the decimal number system. What is the decimal number system which we use in everyday life? Okay, so 34, 53, 12. What is the binary number system? In binary number system, as the word suggests, we are going to use only two different characters to represent a number, and those two different characters are 0 and 1. Okay, for example, if I write 101, so this means I am representing 5. If I write say 1010, so this means I am representing 10. So how does this conversion actually happen? So what the idea behind binary number system is that we have certain places, and for each of these places we have a corresponding place value. For example, in the decimal number system, that is the everyday number system, this is the 10 raised to power 0 place value, this is the 10 raised to power 1 place value, and the next one, say there was a 3 here, so the next one would have been 10 raised to power 2 place value. So we used to say this in our school classes as well, like tenths place, hundredths place, thousandths place, if you remember. So in that manner only, we have 2 raised to power 0 place value for the rightmost character, which we also call as least significant digit. Okay, least significant digit or least significant bit, anything you can say. So the rightmost corresponds to 2 raised to power 0. The immediate next to it is 2 raised to power 1, and so on. So for example, if I write here 1 0 1 0 0, this this directly means I am saying 2 raised to power 4, 1 times 2 raised to power 4 plus 0 times 2 raised to power 3 plus 1 times 2 raised to power 2 plus 0 times 2 raised to power 1 and 0 times 2 raised to power 0. So that corresponds to 2 raised to power 4 plus 2 raised to power 4 plus 2 raised to power 2. That is equal to 16 plus 4, 20. Okay, so I don't think anyone has any doubt till here. Yeah, good evening, everyone. So I'll be moving a little bit fast. If anyone thinks that is an issue, just feel free to interrupt me anywhere. So that is all about the binary number system. Now, a few things to notice here that are on the top of my mind here. For any number, say n, how many digits will we be using in binary representation? For any number n, any decimal number n, how many digits will we be using for the binary representation? Can anyone guess that, or tell me if they know? Say I give you any number n, how many digits would you be using in binary representation to represent that number? And there's probably a lag in the chat, so I guess I'll wait 30 seconds for the comments to sync up. Okay, 2 raised to power n, 8-bit, 8. Yeah, so okay, I think the people who said 8 are getting a little bit idea, but Ankur, I don't know where are you coming from with 2 raised to power n. No, see, I think Ankur just let's get to what Ankur said in the later part. But first, my first question is, suppose I have been given a decimal number n, how many binary digits, or how many ones and zeros I need to represent it? Okay, so the answer to this is log to the base 2 of n, and you can say plus minus 1, but in general it is log n to the base 2. Yeah, so Sarvesh, Jinesh and Harshal got it right. So what is the idea behind this? So what you can see is in every single digit we keep on multiplying the representation by 2, right? In every single digit, in every single place value, we keep on multiplying the every single digit we keep on multiplying the place value by 2. So I'll first of all start with the biggest power of 2 that I can extract out of number n. I'll write that down. Then I'll go to the next higher power after subtracting, and so on and so forth, which directly corresponds to log to the base 2 n subtractions, and hence those many digits. Okay, so that is the idea behind log to the base 2 n digits. Now what Ankush was saying, I think that's the right name. So he was saying 2 raised to power n. So what is this 2 raised to power n actually? Suppose I have x digits of binary of ones and zeros, x digits. Okay, so using these x digits, I can represent at the most 2 raised to power x numbers. So I can represent 2 raised to power x distinct numbers. So that is what this 2 raised to the power thing was. Suppose let me try to give you an intuition behind it. Suppose I have 4 place values, each can have either a 1 or a 0. So for each of these, I have two choices. Two choices here, two choices here, two choices here, and two choices here. The number of these choices in itself are x, as I defined. There are x digits. So these number of choices are x. And these choices themselves are independent of each other. That for because I am trying to represent, I am trying to generate any possible number. So these choices in themselves are independent of each other. So what I can do is I can just multiply these choices, and I can say I have 2 raised to power of filling these four dashes, filling these four places with the number of choices which are independent of each other. So hello. Hello, am I audible? Okay. Just a minute. Let me open the YouTube stream as well on my other device so that I can check myself if I'm online or not. Give me a minute. Okay, so okay, okay. So till where were you guys able to listen? My network actually just went down for a moment. Till where did you guys get whatever I was telling? Can anyone just tell me that so we can continue from there? Mm, I think you guys heard till the log to the base 2 part. Let me just go through this 2 raised to power n thing again. So what was this 2 raised to power n thing? So suppose I have x digits of ones and zeros, x places which I can fill. Now I need to answer how many distinct numbers can I represent using all of these x digits. Okay. So the idea to calculate this solution is I can imagine each of these x place values as some boxes. In these boxes, I need to fill either a 1 or either a 0. So for each of the box, I have two choices, and thus overall, I have 2 raised to power x choices for the whole system to be filled. Okay. Uh, if I'm going too fast or if I'm going too slow, or if there's any other problem, just let me know. I'll just move on to the next thing. So this is a number system. I hope you all got the point for this. Let's move on to the next thing, which is logical operations. So logical operations. Okay. So the first operation that we'll be seeing is AND. The next one would be OR, NOT, and the fourth one is XOR. So these logical operations are binary operations, except this one. This one is a unary operation. Rest all the three are binary operations, which mean they apply on two operands. Okay, so for, let's say I have true false, true true, false true, and false false. So I think many of you would know this table already. If anyone doesn't, then just let me know in the chat. I'll just quickly fill this up. So true and false is false, true and true is true, and these are false. Similarly, this is here, and for not of true is false, and not of false is true. And the XOR is an important operator if you haven't met it yet, so you can just understand it here. XOR of, we call it XOR, XOR XOR. XOR of true and false is true. XOR of true true is false. True, and the last one is false. So can anyone just send some message on chat so I can know that I am still with you guys, you are understanding and you are responding? If anyone can just send any message on the chat. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Rohan. Okay. So where was I? Yeah. So we have discussed all these four operations. Now let's move on to the binary system. So what I was using here was true and falses. I was using trues and falses. Instead of these trues and false, I could just replace them with ones and zeros, and that seems pretty natural. So I don't think any problem would be on that side. So but the next step is repeatedly applying these operations. Can you repeatedly apply these operations upon multiple values? Say I have 1 0 1 1 0, and I need to XOR each one of these. So this is the symbol of XOR. Let me write the symbols as well. So XOR is represented like this, and can be represented like this, and no need for the circle, or like this, and we can say NOT is like this. So actually just forget that. Let me represent them with the C++ representations only. So in C++, bitwise AND is like this, OR is like this, NOT is like this, and XOR is like this. Okay, these are the C++ notations for bitwise bitwise operations. These are the C++ notations. So can we apply these? Can we apply these to multiple values? Can anyone tell me how would they go about applying these to multiple values? Suppose I do this, what would be the answer? Can anyone tell me that? Okay, cool. So yeah, so Hitesh Gurnani said 1. And just to let you guys know that there's a little bit of lag, so you might think I'm waiting too long, but that is not the case. I just write the answer whenever any one of you replies. So Hitesh said 1, which is correct. So how is this happening? So in for XOR, what we can follow is, if there are an odd number of set bits, if there are an odd number of ones, then we can say the result of the XOR of those group of bits is 1. Let me write that down. If say I want to XOR A1 with A2 with A3 and so on till AN. I want to XOR all of these. So what would be the result? The result can be defined in using these two cases. If the number of ones is odd, then we can say the result is 1, else the result is 0. So this is the I can say trick, or not trick, this is the actual working of XOR. Similarly, you guys can derive for AND and OR as well. For AND, we can say if every single value is set, then we can say AND is 1. And for OR, even if a single value is set, then the answer will be 1. So this is logical operations. And the next step after this is bitwise operations. So what are bitwise operations? So the difference between logical and bitwise operations is that bitwise operations operate on each and every single bit one by one. Suppose I have a number 1011 and another number 1100. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do bitwise AND of these numbers. Of these two numbers, I'll do bitwise AND. So the result would be calculated using and the bitwise technique. So the bitwise technique is we compare each bit one by one. 1 and 0 is 0. 1 and 0 is 0. And the operation I'm employing here is AND. 1 and 0 is 0. And in the end, 1 and 1 is 1. So that is the simple meaning of bitwise operators. These bitwise operators apply bit by bit on every single number. Okay. Okay, and Puneet has mentioned X XOR X is 0. Yeah. So let me explain that one too. I'll write it here. So he says X XOR X is equal to 0. What does this mean? This basically means by meaning I say how did this come into effect. So suppose there is any number 10110 and we XOR it with this same number again 10110. Now as you can see in the truth table of XOR, whenever the values are same, true, it returns false. See, whenever the values are same, it returns false, and it returns true only when the input values are differing, then only it returns true. So this means that whenever I XOR a number with itself, it will obviously give me 0 0 0 0 0. So this is a great property about XOR. Cool. So that is about the second topic. So if anyone has any doubt till here, then you can just stop me right now, or we can move on to the next thing. Okay, so the next thing is let's make a new page. So I have already told you the C++ notations for all of these. Let me reiterate upon that. AND is represented by an ampersand, OR is represented by a bar that is placed above enter, and XOR is represented by this upwards arrow, and not is represented by a tilde. Okay, so these are the four representations which are in C++ and Java and many other languages actually. So these are all bitwise bitwise operators. You have another variation in the language known as logical operators, in which these are replicated, like these are doubled onto themselves. So what the doubling says is this is now a logical operator. A logical operator doesn't apply bit by bit, but it applies on the whole value. Whereas what we are learning today is bitwise operators. These apply, as I showed you in the previous page, these apply their operation, their particular operation, bit by bit. Okay, so that is all. Next operator I want to show you is the shift operator. Yes, so let's study about the shift operators. So there are two type of shift operators. The first one is left shift, and the second one is right shift. I don't think anyone's having doubt till now. Okay, so left shift and right shift. This is represented by two left arrows, left facing arrows, and this one is two right facing arrows. So what is left shift? Suppose, let me write the definition first. So the left shift is basically shifting all the bits to left by the given amount. So this is actually important, that you can not only shift them by a single place, but you can control by how much amount you want to shift the bits of any particular number. Suppose I have a number like this. It is 0 0 1 0 1 0 0, and upon this number I apply the left shift operation. So the left shift goes after that, and I also need to give the amount by which this number needs to be shifted towards the left. By the number being shifted towards the left, I mean each and every single bit of the number is taken up and shifted to left and then brought back. So let's understand with an example. Say I want to left shift this number by 2. So the result of this operation would be I will just left shift each of these bits by 2. So I get 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 0. So what happened was this 1 gets shifted 2 times to the left. Same happens for zeros as well, like obviously. So this is left shift. I think I have written this wrong. Just a second. It is 1 0 0 and then a single 1 and then repeating 4 zeros. Okay, so this is the left shift operator, and similarly analogous to this is the right shift operator. What you do is just the vice versa thing. Suppose I apply the right shift on the same number and I right shift it by 2. So this means I am doing 0 0 0 0 1 and then 0 0 1. Okay, so can anyone tell me the mathematical implication of doing a left shift by 1 or a left shift by 2? Similarly, a right shift by 1 or a right shift by 2. What what happens to the number after I shift it by 1 towards the left? How does the value of the number change? If anyone can think upon that and tell me that, I'll give you 30 seconds or maybe 15 seconds. Multiply and divide by 2. Okay, Rajat. So that is the case when we shifted by a single place. What if I'm shifting the digits by 2 places or 3 places? 2 raised to the power x. Yeah. So yeah, Rajat, you are absolutely correct. So this x which Rajat is mentioning is actually the second the second value which we pass to this binary operator. So the second value, which is by the amount I need to shift, is X, what Rajat is saying here. Okay, so what is happening is whenever I shift a number by say 1 towards the left, it gets converted to some bigger number. In this case, it will become 1 this. And now notice the place values of 2. 4, 2, 1. So this number on the left side was 8 plus 2, right? This number was 8 plus 2. Now this has converted to 16 plus 4. So what has actually happened is I have multiplied 8 plus 2 by 2. This directly converts to 16 plus 4. So when I shift by 1 each and every single bit, each bit gets higher place value and overall the number gets multiplied by 2. And the vice versa happens in right shift. You divide by 2. Okay. Now this is for the case of a single shift. What if I am doing a larger shift in a single operation? Suppose I am doing 1 0 1 0 left shift 3, and this all of this left shifting happens in this single operation. So as Rajat mentioned, and maybe Shakti Raj Sin also said, yeah, multiplied by 2 raised to power n. Yes. So what happens in another case when the number is not 1, we actually are just multiplying the number by 2 raised to power 3. So this is the mathematical implication or intuition or anything else you want to say about these left shift and right shift operators. And if you use C++, then you would have noticed cout something, say hi. So what is happening is this hi is getting shifted into the output stream. So that is why we are using these left shift operators. They're not exactly bitwise operators, because these in the case of cout and scene, they have been overloaded according to the class definitions, but they are working on a similar kind of principle. So when I do cin into some variable a, so whatever there is in the value cin, it gets shifted into a. Okay, so this was left shift and right shift. Anything else I want to tell you? We have discussed. No. Okay. Any doubts till here? We have discussed 3 or 4 topics. Any doubt till here to anyone? So I'll just wait for 30 seconds or less for you guys to think if you have any doubt. Okay, no doubt. So great. Now let's study about quick manipulations first, and then we can go on to, okay. Just a second. Let me copy this, and I don't think I can take it to the next page. Okay, no worries. So let's do some quick manipulations. Suppose I have a number and I want to set the ith bit of number. Okay, so you would be given a number n, and you will also be given I. This is the input, and the output would be a number x, where x is n only, where x is n only, with ith bit set. Setting the bit means if it is 0, then you convert it to 1. If it is 1, then you let it be 1. So any ideas how can we do this? Rajat, Shakti, Raj Sen, Harshil, and everyone. Try to use the bitwise operators I just showed you. ORing the ith bit with 1. Okay. So how will you OR the specific bit? Now, first of all, you are thinking in the right direction. Now, how will you OR a specific bit with 1? How will you do that, Hitesh? OR with 2 raised to power I. Okay, great. Okay. So what is 2 raised to power I? Suppose let's take an input, n is equal to 12 and I is equal to 3. So in binary, this will become 8 plus 4, which is 1100. This is the binary representation of using left shift. Yeah. Okay, great. So using left shift, okay. So first of all, what is 2 raised to power I, as Rajat said? So 2 raised to power I directly corresponds to 8, which is in binary 1000. Let's take a number whose this bit is not set. Wait a minute. Let me change my example. Say my example is this 1010. This is n, and I is 0. I is 2. So I want to set this bit. Okay. Let me. And this is the example. So what we can do is we can OR this particular place, which is this third place from the right. We can OR this with a 1. When we do this, when we OR these two numbers, the rest of the numbers remain however they were before this operation. The rest of the digits remain as they were before this operation. So 1 or 0, 1, 1 or 0, 1, 0 or 0, 0. The position in our focus, which is the second index bit, this gets set to 1. I think that is clear to everyone. If not, just let me know. So how will you write that in a single line code? We can just say that n is odd. Suppose I need to return x. So n is odd by 1 left shift by I. This is the C++ code for the same. C++ code. Cool. So this is your answer per se for this question. So if I want to set any ith bit, I will just OR it, that is bitwise OR it with a number which is set in the uh, which has 1 set in the ith position. Okay. So that was the first problem. Let's move to the second problem. The second problem is you want to check if the ith bit is set or not. If it is set, then you will just say print yes or print no, whatever. Maybe you'll use in some other program. But what is the main problem here is you want to check if the ith bit is set in a number n. So how will you do that? Anyone? Or with 2 raised to power I not equal to 0. I don't think that will work. No. Okay, Hitesh, what about taking and, like, with which number do you take the and what should be the result of that operation? Okay, right. So Tulsi is right here and Ronit too. Yep. So suppose this is the number, and I1, say first of all I want to check for this bit, which is 0, 1 to third bit, and I2 is like, say, 0, 1 to fourth bit. Okay. So first of all, if I want to check if the third bit is set or not, this bit is in our focus right now. So to check if this bit is set or not, I need a mask, I need a bit mask, or I need a number, which is like this. Move this here. 1001. Sorry, 0. And after I get such a number, I'll just AND these two numbers with each other and finally get the result. So what would be the result of this operation? It would be as such. So what I am doing here is, first of all, I am selecting the ith bit by making this mask, this one left shift I. I am kind of in a way, I'm selecting the ith bit. After I have selected that bit, I am doing bitwise AND with the original number. So if in the original number, say if it were 0 here, so 0 and 1 would have given me a 0. So let's run that example as well. So if we want to check for the fourth bit, so in the same number, so I would create a mask. This fourth, this is actually zero based indexing. Okay, zero based indexing. So don't get confused with that. So I create a mask like this, and when I do AND of these two numbers, I get complete 0 everywhere. Why is that? Because the bit in focus, these two bits, one, they return 0 after doing the AND operation. 1 and 0 gives 0. And on the other hand, in the first example, since we had a 1 in the original number at the position of focus, therefore we were getting some non-zero value. Okay, so the condition to check would in code would be, if this n and one left shift I is not equal to 0, and you need to enclose these in brackets as well, because these bitwise operators have the lowest precedence. Okay, so bitwise has, let's just write bitwise has lowest precedence among all the operators. So always write bitwise in brackets. So I can do this. If it is not equal to 0, then we can say bit is set. Else we can say it is not set. Okay. And this not equal to 0 is also not required. If you can just directly write, that will also work, because the value returned is a non-zero. And in C++ by default, a non-zero value corresponds to a Boolean true. Okay, so that is a truthy value, a Boolean truth value. So we have done these two problems. Okay, any doubt till here by anyone? If you have any doubt till here, then just ask me or we can move on. No doubt, I guess. Okay, so the next question is, I want to reset, or in another words, unset the ith bit of n. That is, I want to, if it is set, like if it is 1, then I'll just make it a 0. And if it is a 0, then I'll let it be 0. Okay, so how will you do this? I'll give you 30 or 40 seconds for this. Hitesh, Ronit, Tulsi, Rajat. and everyone else. If anyone is trying, just try it. You are trying or like something. Okay, so we have an answer. Hitesh says n and not of one left shift n. Okay. Okay, so why are you shifting it left by n? I think that is a typing error there. You must shift it by I. But I get the point. Hitesh, well done. You are like correct. Good work. So yes, Tulsi. So we are using not. So what we are doing here is, let me take an example. Say this is the number in question, okay, and I is 2. When I say I is 2, that means 0, 1, 2. This digit which I'm underlining needs to be removed. So what are we going to do here? As Hitesh said, the answer is basically n and not of one left shift I. So how does this work? Let's first of all analyze what is this one left shift I, and after doing the left shift, we are uh, flipping the bits of each and every digit. So one left shift 2 is equal to this. And when I flip all of the digits, so remember there are zeros as well appended to the left after the most significant bit. So after I do this one left shift 2, so I get 111 and maybe more at the left, 0 at the ith position, and then again 1 1. So what is happening is we are creating in a way an inverse mask. What I was doing, what we were doing until now, we were creating masks like this 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 that had a 1 at a single position. Okay, and we used these masks in both of the previous questions, but what we are doing here is we are using an inverse mask using the same strategy. So after I have this inverse bit mask, what I will do is I will just AND it with the original number. So when I have this, I have mask as this. When I AND these two values, uh, for every position other than I, the actual value will be retained. Why will that be retained? Because 0 and 1 is 0 and 1 and 1 is 1. So the actual value is retained if the second operand is 1. This means except I, every other value will be retained as it is. So 1 0 1 0. And what about the ith position? No matter whatever position was whatever bit was there in the first number, the answer would always be 0, because 0 and 0 is equal to 0 and 0 and 1 is equal to 0. So no matter whatever the bit or whatever the number be at the other side, if I have even a single 0, then the answer would be 0. So we have used this concept to unset or reset the ith bit. That was the third problem. Okay, so in C++, also this is the same way you'll be doing it. No changes. So that is the third part. I think I'll need to speed up a little bit. It's already 5:50. So we'll just speed up for the rest. those are easy. So toggle, check parity, remove last bit. Okay. So now the fourth question I believe is you need to toggle the ith bit. Okay, we can just quickly tell me anyone, Hitesh, Rajat, how will you toggle Tanishq, Tulsi, Anurag? How will you toggle me tell you the answer against you people telling me the answer. So the solution for this is, uh, am I audible, right? Yes, okay. So the solution for this is my mask is in a similar manner that we constructed until now. Let's say I use this mask. I want to toggle this second bit. What operation will I use? I need to toggle this second bit. What operation will I use? Rajat says number raised to power. Oh, number XOR. Okay, number on XORed with one left shift n. Yeah, correct. Okay, so Rajat is right here. So what we are doing is we will use the XOR operator here. So if I XOR these two numbers, so A XOR 0, A can be either a 0 or a 1. A XOR 0 is A, that is the value is retained. Okay, A XOR 0 is A, and on the other hand, A XOR 1 is negation of A. If I XOR, let me expand this actually. Let's move out of variables and actually into the values. So 0 XOR 0 is 0 itself. 1 XOR 0 is 1 itself. These are the two cases of the first equation that I wrote. The two cases of the second equation are 0 XOR 1 is equal to negation of the first operand, which is 1, and 1 XOR 1 is negation of the first operand, which is 0. These are the two cases for the next equation. Okay, so this is what we are using here. We are using this second property, actually the first one also. So what is happening is, at all the positions that are not the ith bit, first property is being used, because one of the operands of the XOR is 0. Therefore, whatever the value was will be retained without any changes. And on the other hand, in the ith position, since I am setting it 1, therefore whatever the value was, it would be toggled, it would be flipped. Okay, so 1 XOR 1 is 0, and this is the expected answer. So the C++ code for this is simply n XORed with one left shift I. So basically we have used, until now we have used all the all the four bitwise operators. We have used AND, we have used OR, we have used XOR, and we have also used AND coupled with NOT. Okay, so we have these four are pretty important and pretty widely used operations in bitwise manipulations, and at the same time they are also very easy to understand. I believe you cannot like once you know them, you cannot forget them. The next question, next problem is, how will you check the parity? How will you check the parity of a number n? Quickly, anyone? Using bitwise operations, you are not allowed to use mod. Like you are not allowed to divide by 2 or get the remainder by 2. Only by using bitwise operations, how are you going to check the parity of any number? What does parity mean? Parity means, is the number odd or is the number even? You need to decide whether the number is odd or even using only bitwise operations. Anyone? Rajat, Hitesh, anyone else? Tulsi, Tanishq. Just focus on the 0th bit. Just focus on that bit only and nothing else. Yeah, correct, Sarvesh. So what we are going to do is we'll just make a mask. We'll make a mask. A mask means a number which looks like this, which I have just written. Uh, that is basically 1. Okay. So 1 in decimal is same as 1 in binary. So we'll make a mask like this. And after making such a mask, the operation we'll employ here is AND, bitwise AND. After doing bitwise AND, what will happen is all of the bits which are not at 0th place will get reset or will become 0. And the bit at 0th place will either be 1 or 0 depending upon the original number. If this bit is 1, we can say the number is odd. And on the other hand, if this result after employing AND is 0, we can say the number is even. So why is this happening? This is happening if you recollect that the 0th place was actually representing 2 raised to power 0 in our binary representation. The 0th place was for the place value 2 raised to power 0. 2 raised to power 0 equates to 1. So if I have a 1 at the 0th place, this means I'm adding a 1 to my complete number. Okay. And if I add a number 1 to my complete number, it automatically becomes odd. The rest of the number is obviously even because they are in the powers of 2. The only bit that makes a number odd is the 0th bit. So you can just if in your C++ code, in your contests or competitions, if you want to quickly check if a number is odd, you can just say if n and 1, then number is odd, else the number is even. That's all. So this is about checking the parity. If anyone has a doubt till here, then they can interrupt me, else we'll move on. So removing the last. Okay, so this is also pretty important operation. So yeah, okay. So the sixth problem is you have to remove the last bit of n. By last bit, I mean last set bit. Let's make it. Let me write it again. Remove the rightmost set bit. Rightmost set bit from n. So for example, my n is equal to 100100. So the answer will be 100000. So this one is removed, but the rest of the numbers remains as it is. Any ideas how we will be doing this? You need to remove the rightmost bit. I'll give you like 30-40 seconds, so maybe 1 minute to think upon this. Okay, I think I'll begin then. So the answer for this is actually n and n minus 1. So not very intuitive or natural, I would say. So how did we get up till here, n and n minus 1? So first of all, let's focus on the second part, which is n minus 1. So what does n minus 1 mean in terms of binary representations? Yeah, Tulsi Karke. Yes, right. So n and n minus 1, what does n minus 1 mean? Suppose n is equal to this. N is equal to this. So what will n minus 1 mean? N minus 1 simply means that I am removing. Let me show you a smaller number. Say, let's work with a smaller number. Say the number is this 110, which corresponds to 6. Okay. And when I do 6 minus 1, I should get 5. So 5 in binary is equal to 101. So after doing n minus 1, what happens is, if the number is in this form, like this, 0, a 1 here, and 0 till the 0th place, zeros repeating till the 0th place. So after doing a minus 1 on this, the first, the highest one, or the lowest, not the lowest, the rightmost one gets unset, and all the other zeros are set. Okay. This is what happens on doing minus 1. Think in the opposite way. What will happen if I add 1 to this number b? What will happen if I add 1 to number b? When I add 1, it obviously changes to a, and when I subtract 1, a changes to b. If you are getting that, then we can move ahead. If anyone has any doubts for this, then we can stop here. We are basically just doing binary addition and subtraction. A single number is being added and subtracted. All bits 0 and leftmost 1. Yeah, something like that. That is the actual value which was there in the beginning, and we, after subtracting 1 from there, that the leftmost becomes 0 and rest all values become 1. Great, no doubt. Okay, so now coming back to the original question, what is n minus 1 here? This. So n minus 1 here, can anyone tell me what is n minus 1 here where I have underlined? Anyone? What is n minus 1 here? According to whatever I just taught you. Just remember that the least, the rightmost set 1 becomes 0, and all the other zeros rightwards to it are set. Rajat, Ravi, Tulsi, 1000111. Absolutely correct. Great. So this is n minus 1. So what happens if I do a bitwise AND of these two numbers? Simply the left half, or not the left half, the let's say the left half remains as is. Okay, it remains as is, so it is 100, and the right half, you will see they are all inverted. After doing minus 1, they're all inverted, hence the right half will become 000. And what have we achieved? This number is same as what we were trying to achieve, right? Therefore we have successfully removed the rightmost set bit from n. Clear to everyone? I think it is clear, like you are all replying actively. So great. Just to reiterate, to remove any rightmost set bit from a number, only a single rightmost set bit, we want to remove it, we will do n and n minus 1. N minus 1, doing n minus 1 inverts all of the zeros before the least significant set bit, and inverts the least significant set bit as well. So it inverts all of these zeros, it inverts them, and the bit itself, doing n-1 inverts them, and it doesn't touch the rest of the number. The rest of the numbers remain, the rest of the digits remain as they were before. And doing AND with this kind of mask, we get what we desire. So this formula or this trick or this expression is pretty widely used in many algorithms which you will be learning. So yeah, this is a great expression. So one implementation we'll be doing right now is, say you want to check if a number is power of 2. How will you check that quickly? We'll be using the same expression which I just told you. How will you check if the number is a power of 2? Anyone? Rajat, Ravi, Tulsi? All bits 1. So if all the bits are 1, then why does that mean that the number is a power of 2? Suppose I have all bits 1 and this number is equal to 7. So this is not a power of 2. Leftmost bit is 1. And what about the rest of the bits, Rohan? Suppose the leftmost bit is 1, but there's also a 1 somewhere else. So this is what? This is 5. This is also not a power of 2. Only leftmost bit is 1. And Akshita says n and n-1 is not equal to 0. Akshita, you were close, but in towards the end your answer got wrong. Akshita, think again. The DSS says only leftmost bit is 1. Yeah, correct. So if only the leftmost bit is 1, then we can say it is power of 2. How will you check that? Using bitwise. Least significant, yeah, Rohan. If there's only a single bit set, then we can say it is both least significant and the highest significant, because there's only a single bit set. So how will you guys check if only a single bit is set in the number? We have reached to the conclusion that the number of set bits in the set number should be 1. Expression I just showed you, and Akshita was pretty close. So see, what you will do is you will just say, you will just do n and n-1. If this expression is equal to 0, then we can say n is power of 2. Okay. And n and n-1, if this is not equal to 0, then we will say n is not a power of 2. Are you guys getting why is this the case? If n and n-1 is 0 also. Yeah, Hitesh, correct. So what is happening is, what does this n and n-1 do? It just removes the least set bit. It removes the least set bit. Now, if to begin with we only had a single bit, then it will remove that bit, and after removing the single bit in the number, the final number will be 0. What I'm trying to say is, if there's only a single bit somewhere and we remove that bit, then the number will obviously become whole zeros all the way. Whereas in the other case, if there are even 2 bits or more than 2 bits, So this expression will remove only the lower bit. So we will have some another bit set somewhere in the number. So that is the intuition, solution, or uh, definition, explanation, whatever you want to say. If n is power of n, then only xth bit is set, and n minus 1 will have all x minus 1 bits set. Yeah, correct, Savish. So we have done check, and another application of the same is eighth. We want to count the number of set bits. I want to count the number of set bits. How will you guys count the number of set bits? So what I will be teaching you are two ways to count the number of set bits. Three ways. So the first way is using right shift operators. Okay. The second way is called the Kernighan's way, or the Kernighan's formula, which that is the formula that we were just using. And the third way is the built-in way. Okay. So the first way is using right shift operators. Yeah. So whoever is mentioning this n and n minus 1, we'll get to this. And this is the second way. This is actually I think this method of counting number of set bits was first introduced by Kernighan only. So that is why they obviously call it the Kernighan's way, Kernighan's method of counting bits. We'll see how that works. But first of all, right shift. So let's write the code for that. Instead of writing it, actually just let's type it. So I hope my screen is visible. Yes, it is visible. Okay. Okay, so let me remove everything from here, So what we are doing is count bits by right shift operator. Okay, so first of all, what I need to do is take an input in. After I have taken an input in, let's say my count by the method A is count A. By using the first method is this. Tulsi says we can check one by one single bit. Exactly, Tulsi. So Tulsi is correct. So this is what we are going to do in the first method. Now, how many bits does int data type have? How many bits does int data type have? 32. Okay. So we need to run the loop 32 times only. And what will we be doing in this loop? We will check if the ith bit is set or not. If n and one left shift I is set, then we can say count A plus plus. And finally, we'll say method A returns count A. Yeah, 32, right? Or we can use bit set number of bit triple dot. Yeah, very nice, Rohan. Yeah, that is also another method, but why should we employ another library when we can just use a simple function built in, or either the Kernighan's way? So let's take an example. Say 8, this should return 1. Method A says 1. Let's take 9, this should return 2. This returns 2. That is the first way. We are using a loop, and the number of operations will be log to the base of number, which is 32. Log to the base number, not max number, which is 32. Okay. Let's directly write it 32 because we are doing 32 steps in the loop. Now let's see the second method, method B, which is the Kernighan's method. Let's say count of B is equal to 0. And let's say a temporary number, we make a temporary number n. Now we'll say while temp is not equal to 0, this means while temp exists, you can also do this like this, while temp, no need to write anything else. While temp exists, what we need to do is plus plus count B, and then temp is equal to temp and temp minus 1. And finally, we can print out the, let me just copy this. Can anyone explain how is this working? Can you just write your intuition? How does this work? Why does this work? What is the intuition behind this? Anyone? See, so what is happening is, say, oops, okay, I think it is crashing. Okay, so let's study the Kernighan's way. Suppose my number is 11010. Okay, now I write the loop like this. While the number exists, while the number is not equal to 0, what I will do inside this loop is I'll plus plus my count, and after doing plus plus, I will decrease or remove the last set bit using this expression. Okay, so how will this happen if we dry run through this for this number? Suppose I get this number down here. So what is happening is, first of all, we have this and the count is 0. Then we go into this while loop. We see this number and the count increases by 1. And the number becomes 11000. Then again we go into the while loop and the count becomes 2. And the number reduces to 10000. And then since the number is not yet 0, we again go into the while loop, increase our count, and the number reduces to all zeros. And since the number has now become all zeros, we do not repeat the while loop, and the final answer is stored in the count, which is 3, which is as expected, which is the correct answer. So what is the number of steps that will be used to calculate this in this method? So in the first method, we were using 32 steps. Okay, in the first method, we were using 32 steps. But in this method, we'll be using only x steps, where x is the number of set bits. So this method has a variable runtime according to the number of set bits. If you have 4 set bits, then the loop will run only 4 times. If you have 64 set bits, then the loop will run 64 times. Okay, and the last method is the built-in way, which is actually just using this Kernighan ways only, but we have a nice little function given to us by C++, which is built-in pop count. What was number? N. So we can just do this. Okay. So now if I run, get 222 for all of these 3. Great. any doubts, any questions you people want to ask, this is the time. So we have learned about 3 ways. And is there any other implementation I wanted to show you? Count set bits. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I think we have 6:20. We'll take 10 or 20 minutes more, and we'll go through some questions and implementations. Any doubt till here by anyone? If you have a doubt, just tell it or reply no. And like I want to see who is active. If you do not have any doubt, just please send in a no quickly in the chat. Okay, cool. So the first implementation is character set, then number of repeating odd times, complete search, highest. Let's start with complete search, and then solve a problem. Okay. So let's solve a problem from Codeforces. I had the problem already opened. Yeah. So let's solve this problem. I'll maybe send in the link. How should I send the link? Okay, just a minute. This is 550/B at Codeforces. Okay, so I knew someone has sent the message. Thanks, 550/B. So yeah, you people can just go through this once. I'm also sharing it on my screen so you can read on the screen directly. Go through the question once in 1 minute, and then we can discuss it. Everyone. Okay, so I think all of you have read the problem. Let me open it as well, just a second. Okay, so I'll start discussing it now. So the problem is Codeforces 550B. Now, you have n problems. You have estimated the difficulty of ith one as an integer ci. You want to prepare a problem set for the contest using some of the problems you have already made. So we have been given n problems to us, and the thing that defined these problems is their difficulty level. So C1, C2, C3, so on till Cn. So this is the problem set that we have been given, and we need to use some of these problems. A problem set for the contest must consist of at least 2 problems. So the first condition is the answer should have greater than or equal to 2 problems. The second condition is total difficulty of the problems. So the total difficulty, say the sum of difficulties, must be at least L. So you can just write it like this. You can say L total difficulty, and the third condition is the difference between the easiest and the hardest of the chosen problems must be at least X. So we can say the max difficulty or max of minus min of must be at least X. So the answer is number of ways to satisfy all the three conditions with given set of problems. Set of problems. So we will be given a set of problems, and upon those set you need to apply these three conditions, and after applying these three conditions you need to reply, or you need to output how many different number of ways, in how many ways can you make the problem set for the contest. So so this problem will use bitwise operations, obviously, that is why we're discussing it, but the actual method we'll be using to solve this will be introduced to you right now only. So I do not expect any of you to come up with a solution yourself, but if by chance anyone has any solution or any hint or any intuition, just write in the chat. We can see what you are thinking. Otherwise we can move on. Let me write the constraints as well. So the constraints are one is less than n is less than 15, one is to the power 9, and one is less than x, 10 raised to the power 6. Okay. Okay, so nobody has any solution, I think. Okay, no problem. We'll be discussing it then. So the first thing to notice here is that n is pretty small. N is only 15. So the most brute force or the most hacky way we can think to solve this problem is to actually try all the possible arrangements, that all the possible selections that we can have out of the given set. So we can, if we try to do that, what would be the time complexity? So suppose I have n problems, and in each problem I will either choose it or I will not choose it. Okay, so there are two choices for every single problem. This corresponds to overall 2 raised to power n different ways to select some set of problems from the given set of problems. And this was actually what we were discussing in the beginning. That is the number of distinct ways to represent the number of distinct numbers that can be represented by using some x digits. So can you guys think of a correspondence between those two? In the beginning, we said that if I have 3 places, then I can represent 2 raised to power 3 numbers with it. And right now we are wanting something similar here only, that we have been given n problems and we want to try out all the 2 raised to power n different combinations. So let's try to represent these combinations or these selections in a binary manner. Suppose I have 3 problems, A, B, C. I am labeling these problems. Suppose I have these 3 problems. N was 3 and the problems are A, B, and C. So now how many ways do I have to make a selection out of this given set? There are 8 ways. So let's try to enumerate all of these ways. So the first way is to select only C. One means selecting that corresponding problem. The second way is to select only B. The third way is to select B and C. Similarly, we can go about all the rest of the ways, so which are like so. And yeah, that's all. So these are all the 8 required ways in which you can possibly select any selection of problems for the from the given set. Can you see any relation, any intuition, or any pattern in whatever I have written on the screen? Can you see any pattern? Anyone? If we assume that these are actually binary numbers and we convert them to their decimal representation, then what does this become? This becomes 1, this becomes 2, this becomes 3, this becomes 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes? Anyone? Can you reply a yes or no? Someone? What I have done here is I am trying to represent each and every single problem by a corresponding bit in my number. If the bit is 1, this means we are selecting that problem. If the bit is 0, this means we are not selecting that problem. And if I try to write all the possible ways and arrange them in a particular manner, then we can observe that this is actually a pattern of the number system itself, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes? Cool. So what is the result out of this is we can use bitwise manipulation, bitwise operations to explore all subsets. So this is a great realization and great tool for you to use. If you do not want to use this, then the other method would have been recursion. Like that would get a little bit involved, but this method is surprisingly easy to actually implement. So what will we be doing? We will go through all of these numbers, and the binary representation of these numbers will tell me what is the selection strategy I need to use at the current moment. If I have 1, this means I will select only C. If I have 2, this means I will select only B. If I have 5, this means I will select only A and C. Once I know what I am selecting, then I can calculate all of the required data that these 3 conditions need and apply those conditions on that data and see if these conditions are being followed or not. If at any point a condition is followed, then we can plus our counter, else we can continue. So I'll just, I don't think I need to actually code it. I think no, actually just let's code it. I will write, what is the number, 550B. Okay. So first of all, we need the input contains 4 integers, NLRX. So we'll take int NLRX x. And then we have the second line contains all of these CI integers. Okay, so let's save them in a array, say problem set prob, and since n is less than equal to 15 only, so I'm making a 15 size array. So for int I is equal to 0, I is less than n, I will input the corresponding problem. So the input is done. After the input is done, we need to make a variable for the answer. This represents the number of good ways to select some problems. This represents the number of good ways to select some problems. Yeah, nothing else. So now let's begin with the main part. So we'll say mask is equal to 0. Mask is less than 1 left shift n plus plus. I'll explain what I'm doing here, and we will in okay. So in this particular example, n was 3. Okay, so for n3, let's take 3 only. In this particular example, n was 3. So what are all the possible combinations I can have? 0, 0, 0, which corresponds to selecting nothing, and in the end 1, 1, 1, which corresponds to selecting everything. Yes. So what I'm doing is this loop here in line 14. This loop iterates through every possibility using a variable named as mask. Okay. This mask goes from 1, 0, 1, 2, 3 up till 7. So how did I get this upper limit? This upper limit I got by 1 left shifted by n places. Why is that? Because we talked about it here. There are only 2 raised to power n ways. So when I do 1 left shift n, I actually get 2 raised to power n only. So I need to explore till those many ways only. So going back to the code, now we are iterating over every possible mask. And if anyone has a doubt till here, they can interrupt me or I'll just move on. So now that we have a mask, we need to calculate some of the values. 2 raised to power n minus 1. Yeah, so Rohan, I'm actually using the less than operator, right? So it will not actually iterate to the 2 raised to power nth value. The less than operator makes sure that my mask doesn't attain a value which is equal to 2 raised to power n. It always remains less than that. Yes? I think it is clear to him. Okay, so what were the conditions? Okay, so the first conditions requires us to check if the number of problems selected are greater than equal to 2 or not. So we can use the built-in pop count method if if built-in pop count mask is less than 2, then we can continue. This is the condition 1, which says we need greater than equal to 2 problems. So if I have less than 2 problems, then I will not consider this arrangement. I will just move on. The condition 2. Condition 2 is the sum of the digits must be in between this, and also we need the maximum and the minimum. So let's calculate all of these 3 values together. Let's say a total is 0, and let's say the minimum value is something more than they can possibly give. That is, say, i.e. 7, and the max value is -1. Yeah, or 0 even. Okay, so now we will run a loop, and the loop must go from I is equal to 0 to I is less than n. So now what I'm doing is in my mask, I am iterating through every single position of I and checking if that ith bit is set or not. If the ith bit is set, then that means I am selecting that particular problem for my contest. So ++I. If ith bit is set in the mask, which is mask, and then I will update the data accordingly. So total plus is equal to the problem corresponding to that. The minimum value is minimum of minimum value comma corresponding problem, and the maximum value is. So now we have calculated all of the data required, and we'll apply the three conditions. So the condition 2 is if sorry, condition 2 is if the data, the total is less than L, or the total is more than R, then we'll say continue. And the condition 3 is if the max value minus min value is less than X, we'll say continue. And if the control, if the program control is still here, then this means all of the conditions were satisfied. Then we can say answer plus plus. And in the finally, we can print out our answer. Okay, so answer is not declared. Yeah, just a second. That's all we need to do. So let's try it once. Mm, Three. It is saying 2. Why is that? It's a mistake. Just a minute. Uh, less if total is greater than L, at least L. Sorry. Total is less than L, and or total is grace more than R, then we can continue. And the second test case says 2, and the third test case says 6. So that is your code. Uh, if anyone didn't understand the code, then they can ask, or that's all for today.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Nandish sir, for this beautiful session. Hope all participants got idea about bit manipulation. And one more thing, our yesterday's quiz winner is Akshay Lalwani from Indore Institute of Science and Technology. Today's quiz link is given in a chat box as well as description. Don't forget to attempt that. Thank you everyone for joining this session. Thank you.